You are listening to Russia on the Record, a podcast from the Moscow Times. This week in Russia, a man was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to trying to persuade his friend to surrender to the Ukrainian army. Last year, over 5,500 desertion cases were prosecuted. So this week, we're going to find out more about deserters from the Russian armed forces and the people who help them. But first, here's a roundup of the past week's news. Britain's defence minister accused China of supplying lethal aid to Russia for use in the war in Ukraine, a claim that the US says it has not seen in its own intelligence. An earlier report citing anonymous US officials said China had supplied Russia with drone and missile technology, satellite imagery, and machine tools, which Russia needs for its war machine but has struggled to obtain thanks to Western sanctions. Beijing has attempted to position itself as a neutral party in the war, even putting forward its own peace plan. Yet Kyiv and its allies remain sceptical of China's neutrality, given that its trade with Russia has soared since the invasion. Authorities in the Far East Republic of Sakha, or Yakutia, declared a state of emergency after seasonal flooding submerged hundreds of homes and forced residents to evacuate. Spring flooding caused by thawing ice is a regular occurrence in some parts of Russia, but heavy rainfall and unusually warm weather have caused especially severe flooding this year, including in the Orenburg region earlier this spring. Countries around the Baltic Sea were taken by surprise this week when Russia published a draft decree that would unilaterally revise its maritime borders with its neighbours, which are all members of the European Union and NATO. The draft resolution published by the Defence Ministry on Tuesday disappeared from the government's website just a day later. While the Kremlin insisted that the proposal was not politically motivated, experts told the Moscow Times that the proposed changes could be used to put pressure on Russia's western neighbours. Russia has returned 6 children to Ukraine in another deal mediated by Qatar. Kyiv believes Moscow has illegally taken 19,000 Ukrainian children to Russia since February 2022, which Russia denies was illegal, saying they were being taken to safety. Fewer than 400 have been returned since then. Putin and Children's Rights Commissioner Maria Lvova-Belova are wanted for the ICC for the unlawful deportation and transfer of these Ukrainian children. And a man in Moscow has been fined for discrediting the Russian army after dyeing his hair the colours of the Ukrainian flag. The man told OVD Info that his blue and yellow hair was an accident and that he did not support Ukraine but had been dyeing his hair bright colours for years. Idite Lesom, which goes by the English name Get Lost, is an NGO founded in Georgia in the fall of 2022. After Russia announced a partial mobilization drive to send more soldiers to the front. The organization's goal is to help Russians escape mobilization or the front line after being deployed. So far, Get Lost has helped over 500 Russians in this way. Its founder, Grigory Sverdlin, formerly director of the Nochlezhka homeless aid charity, spoke to the Moscow Times about the organization's work. Why did you decide to found Idite Lesom, and what has the organisation managed to achieve since then? And did your prior work helping homeless people help you in this process?
Well, I decided to start this project. I think in English, the closest translation is Get Lost, Idite Lesom in Russian. So I decided to start it a few days after Putin's announcement of mobilization in Russia. It was a big shock, obviously, for me and for all of the people I know. And I really wanted to do something helping those Russians who want to avoid being drafted. And also I wanted badly to strike back Russian authorities, this criminal state. And being for almost 15 last year's director of charity organization, I had a lot of experience. I had a lot of contacts with journalists, with volunteers, and I wrote in my social media that I will start such a project, and I haven't ever seen such a response. Within a few days, hundreds of people wrote me, and we had team of IT volunteers, we had team of designers, we had team of people who studied a lot of information, preparing to be consultants on our hotline. So within 5 days, in fact, we had organization, we had charity fund. Usually for such preparation, you need at least, I think, 3-4 months. But this time, as I said, it was just 5 days. And after 5 days, we started helping people. And just within September and October and November to 2022, we had more than 2,000 people asking for our help. People already being drafted, or people afraid of being mobilized, people who got conscription notes, and so on and so forth. And we were providing juridical help, psychological help. We started to help people to desert from army units and evacuate them from Russia, or helping them to stay in Russia hiding. So we started what we are doing till now. All of it was started just within a few days after Putin's mobilization started.
Do you think Russians have enough information about how they can avoid mobilization? And is providing that information part of your work?
Yeah, sure. We do such a work, and we provide a lot of different guidelines, and we have special website for people who are searching for such information. This website, by the way, was blocked by Russian authorities, but it's still reachable using VPN. And we provide all of this information in our social media, and we have already more than 100,000 subscribers in our Telegram channel and in our Instagram. At the same time, I would say that many Russians still do not know enough to defend themselves. And unfortunately, in Russia, people usually not used to fight for their rights. They thought that state will decide for them, will provide information which can be trusted, which is not the case as we understand in this regard. So a lot of work to do, and we still continue different information campaigns telling people how to defend themselves.
Do you mostly help people who have received a draft summons, or those who have to be rescued from the front? And how hard is it to organize these groups' escapes?
Yeah, well, usually we ask for help by people who are not in the army yet. It's approximately 80% of requests for our help are from not from the army, and approximately 15-20% of requests for help are already from different army units. Some of them are located in Russia, some of them are located already on occupied territories of Ukraine. And talking about help to desert from army units, obviously it's quite complicated. We have team members who are in touch with such people 24/7, and for every person in need in such situation, for every person who decided to desert, facing risk to be imprisoned for 15 years, for every such person, we provide a lot of help. We plan all of the evacuate route. We research what is going on, what situation, what kind of documents this guy has, and is he in need to see his relatives, or he can go directly abroad? Is he already in federal search, or it's still possible to leave the country legally? So a lot of research, a lot of preparation, a lot of thinking and discussing with the person about the route of evacuation. And then we follow and we help on the ground if necessary to evacuate from Russia. And talking about money, usually it's not such a big money for us. It's approximately, as we were counting, approximately $400 we spent as organization to help one Russian soldier or Russian officer to desert from Russian army. But it's a lot of work, a lot of working hours, a lot of nerves for the whole team because it's really, really risky and we really are responsible for the person.
Is the number of requests you're receiving increasing?
Well, if we talk about people requesting for our help being already in Russian army, so the number is increasing dramatically. For example, last January, almost 1.5 years ago, per month we had 28 requests for help deserting Russian army. And this January 2024, we had already 284 such requests per month. So more than 10 times X. And it's keep increasing. And we can see that in spite of all propaganda lies, people are getting more and more tired of war, especially people who were mobilized.
What happens to these deserters if they're caught?
Yeah, well, as I said, through Russian law, you can be imprisoned for 15 years for being a deserter. So it's really big risk. And I think people who decided to take it are really brave and definitely they're not traitors, but they are rebels.
What happens to these deserters after they're caught? Is it easy for them to get political asylum?
No, unfortunately not. It's really, really hard. We have such cases. For example, France gave refugee status to some of our clients, if I can call them so. But up to date, we've helped more than 600 people desert Russian army. And as I said, just a few of them succeed to get this refugee status. So I think it's a big problem that European countries and states don't see these people as political activists and in fact being just, for example, once on some protest, maybe 10 years ago in Russia and having such a photo, you can apply for refugee status in France or in Germany, but being deserter, maybe not even once shooting to somebody, but facing 15 years in prison, you cannot apply for this refugee status. It's really, really hard. And most of such people whom we help to desert, they stuck in Kazakhstan or Armenia, not having opportunities to go somewhere else from these countries.
In April, there were reports that a Russian deserter in Armenia was kidnapped and held in a Russian military base in the country. Does this kind of thing happen very often?
Well, we know yet about a few such cases. We know about 2 such cases in Armenia in December and in April this year. And we know about a couple of such cases in Kazakhstan. So these countries yet are quite safe. Although I cannot say that it's very safe, but it's quite safe, these countries for the deserters. But obviously it's not safe to go to Kyrgyzstan or Uzbekistan or Belarus and many, many other countries. I mention so often Kazakhstan and Armenia because it's possible to go there without foreign passport. You can enter these countries legally with just Russian passport, not international one, but domestic one.
What is important for foreigners to know about Russians who escape the country because they don't want to fight in this war?
Yeah, well, as I said, I think that these people are brave. I think that these people really risked a lot going against Putin and against his regime. And I think that really we should support such people. And I think it's important if we really want to stop this war, because if Russian soldiers would know that it's possible for them to get refugee status in some European countries, we'll see more deserters, and this will help not only to these Russian soldiers, but also obviously to Ukrainian army, which will face weaker Russian army. I would like to thank all of supporters of our small organization, all of our volunteers, all of our donators. Thank you. And we've done a lot of work already. We've helped more than 29,000 people up to date. And among them, as I said, more than 600 deserters. So let's keep going till this awful war will end.
That's all for this week. Thank you, as ever, for listening to Russia on the Record, and be sure to follow the Moscow Times on social media to keep up to date with all of the latest news from Russia.